Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today we're talking about Trainers Pokemon and the Pokemon TCG, which are going to be coming next year in 2025, and presumably I believe they'll be in the first set of the year, the first main set of the year, which will be the first set with rotation. So currently we see, let's say like Pikachu EX, and that has a regulation mark of H, meaning that will rotate in, I believe, at the beginning of 2027. Yeah, that's when it'll be rotating. The cards with G regulation mark, like say Gardevoir EX, would be rotating. You see the G regulation mark, that'll be rotating in the beginning of 2026. And then cards with the F regulation mark, like Arceus V Star, is rotating very soon in a few months at the beginning of next year with the release of this expansion. There are technically like some slightly different weeks and stuff, so if you're playing, I don't know, if you're playing Pokemon TCG Live, it'll be the rotation and new set drop will be at the same time, and then if you're playing in like an in-person tournament, they'll also be at the same time, though the tournament date will be 2 weeks later than the live date, I believe. Presumably, Pokemon could change things. And then if you're playing casually, you can really do whatever you want, so it doesn't really matter. But theoretically, the format, I believe, would have maybe 2 weeks of overlap, but that doesn't really matter that much. Regardless, trainers Pokemon are the new like mechanic. For some reason, Pokebeach calls it Owner's Pokemon. I've never seen it called Owner's Pokemon outside of Pokebeach. I don't know. It was like an old mechanic, and it was the trainers Pokemon of like these cards here. We got some examples. I'm not really going to be talking about these cards much, despite talking about like the returning mechanic. It's functionally a bit different, I guess. It's not super different, but also it's the trainers Pokemon are going to be pretty similar to something like, say, the ancient and future Pokemon. They're in the game right now, and in some ways it's similar, as it's just what I describe as a name mechanic, where you have like Roaring Moon, which is a Pokemon that references the ancient Pokemon, and then you have a card like the. We're gonna dive into the cards, and you have En's Zoroark EX, which references En's Pokemon. So kind of like the same thing there, and it is a little different with a named mechanic where it's kind of like we've seen stuff like the Ultra Beast, Team Plasma. Um, Ultra Beasts are a little bit different, but because they have more like strong theming. But then you also have like Rapid Strike, Single Strike, Fusion Strike, and H feature, and there are a bunch. So it's not, well, despite the fact that it is the return of trainers Pokemon, it's not necessarily super like it. Outside of course, the theming of it's a Pokemon with a certain trainer featured on the card. So we got this Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX. We got the Marnie here, and Marnie is part of the name, or Marnie's. So that means, and Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX evolves from Marnie's Morgrim. This is interesting, and that is how they worked before. This means they have different names. So you could be playing. Is there a Reshiram in Standard? There, oh yeah, apparently there's one in the new set, so you could play four of N's Reshiram, and you could play four copies of this Reshiram. Ultimately, does this matter? I don't know, but that also means that the you could have like different evolution lines, which ultimately will probably make the cards a little bit worse, but it's not that big of a factor. But it is a difference, so I figured I'd talk about it. But let's talk about what the actual cards are. We have four revealed so far, or five, I guess. We have two different ends, Reshiram arts, but we'll start with the ends Pokemon. These are the only ones we've seen two different Pokemon of, and of course, Enzarua is confirmed as well. And En's Zoroark EX here is a card with the ability Trade, which is on in standard format right now. It is on the Lipard, which will actually be rotating at the same time this is printed, but it was on this Lipard, which is discard a card from your hand, draw two cards, and then we saw it on Zoroark GX, which is a very strong card in the standard format at its time in standard, and expanded it's kind of bad. It's not completely terrible, but it's not that good. And it's, if it is good, just because of the other pieces around it, like the Zoroark from Evolving Skies and various things, but we don't really need to go into that. But this is a callback to this card. It has the same ability. Though ultimately, it's a pretty different card outside of the fact that it's same name and same ability. And the ability also in standard format right now, we have it on Curlia as well. It's a different name, but it's the same ability. And Life and Curlia are mediocre cards. or they're kind of bad, to be honest. Curly is good within the Gardevoir EX deck, and that's because it's the same evolution line. People aren't playing Liepard in many decks really at all. Liepard is played from time to time, but it's not that common. And then I say is Curly is part of a better evolution line, so that sees a little more play, even outside of Gardevoir EX, I guess, but it's still not that common. There's Glade and yeah, it does not play that much though. Regardless, and Zoroark EX is not just for its ability, it is for its attack as well, with the attack Knight Joker here. And I believe these are the official attack names. The information is not complete. This is from obviously some set. It could just be from a promo, which is like kind of a set, but it's presumably from the main set. And that information's hidden, and the regulation mark is hidden, but presumably it'll be next year, the first set of next year. And theoretically, other information could be incomplete or incorrect on purpose. Pokemon sometimes hides information, though I don't think they're really hiding much information here outside of, as I said, the set. And so this is a Pokemon with the Attack Knight Joker. Choose when you're benched, ends Pokemon's attacks, and use it as this attack. This is kind of cool. This is kind of like Regidrago V-Star, which copies an attack but does not require you to have the energy to pay. We'll say the Ends Reshiram. This is the only other Ends Pokemon we've seen, and so you wouldn't need a Fire and a Lightning energy. You just need the 2 Darkness energies, unlike something like Ditto in standard format, where you do need the prop type of energy. Ultimately, this is a card that I think is pretty similar to Mew VMAX. Mew VMAX, the deck and the card as well, but Cross Fusion Strike is essentially the same thing. It is cheaper, and so this is going to be a bit awkward to pay. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit, but right now in standard we have Dark Patch, but that will be rotating, so you will not be able to use that on Zoroark EX. But with this attack, you just copy a Pokemon on your bench of a certain like name or like an attribute to it, not just like Regidrago of a certain type, but it is of a certain mechanic, like Fusion Strike with Mew VMAX, or like the Ends Pokemon with the Zoroark EX. And now we can see a bit more clearly that there's going to be a bunch of different kind of like mini mechanics. Each trainer is kind of like a different mechanic with some different theming. I think these, as I said, this is the only trainer we've seen 2 cards of. But anyways, you have Ends Reshiram here to copy, which is a really interesting, it's not a super interesting card, but kind of interesting. Virtuous Flame here for both these attacks are expensive that you're not going to pay. You're going to copy them. But you can do 170, which 2 energy 170 on Zoroark EX isn't that good. It's kind of bad, but it's not completely terrible either. It is something that is okay and something you might use. But then Powerful Rage here says it does 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Zoroark EX coming in here with 280 HP, which is kind of high for a Stage 1 EX. It's not absolutely insane, but it's a little high, and it could tank some hits, but won't necessarily tank hits all the time. Ends Zoroark EX. I expect there to be maybe 10 Ends Pokemon, including pre-evolutions, but I'm not really sure to be honest right now. But there'll be some more. Hopefully, right now, as I said, Ends Reshiram's the only attack you can copy. You could copy Knight Joker with Knight Joker, I think, but that's not getting you anywhere. So if the main attack you have to be using is this 170 attack, that's not really going to be good enough. The ability is a nice addition, and it will allow this card to be better. And I said it's like Mew VMAX. Mew VMAX had Genesect V, and Genesect V plus Mew VMAX was an insane combo. The Mew VMAX deck could play things what on earth? I clicked on this deck. Apparently that's an expanded deck. Okay, so you had like Meloetta and Ice-Q as different attacking options, but they aren't that good. Meloetta is pretty good, but it's not amazing. Genesect V is the main attack. So Mew VMAX had the Genesect V is the main attack you're copying, but Mew VMAX is the attack you're actually using. So Mew VMAX's attack is like Zoroark EX's attack, and then you have Genesect V with its attack you're copying, which is kind of like Ends Reshiram, and then you have the ability on Genesect V as your draw engine, which is kind of like the ability on Zoroark EX. So you have a similar set of things, except hopefully more diversity within the attackers, because I said Genesect V's attack that you're copying is kind of like Ends Reshiram. It's not really that much like it. It's the only comparison we have for now. Anyways, I'm really excited for these cards, assuming we get some more Ends Pokemon that are pretty solid attackers, but we'll see how the deck develops as we get more cards. Additionally, we need to talk about the actual trainer in N right now. Right now, So in terms of, this is going to be a pain to search up, isn't it? If I just type in N, we saw the supporter N. The supporter N is not going to get reprinted. I'd be shocked and annoyed if it got reprinted. N is supporter that says each player shuffles their hand into their deck, then draws a card for each of the remaining prizes, which is almost like Iona, which is very similar, saying they shuffle their hand and put it on the bottom of their deck and draw a card for each remaining prize. The difference is obviously N, you shuffle your hand into your deck versus Iona, you shuffle your hand, put it on the bottom of your deck, and then you draw. So slight differences, but very, very slight differences. Ultimately, if both these supporters were in the game, it would just be confusing. Additionally, obviously, N doesn't interact with these N's cards either, these N's Pokemon. And in terms of N, oh, how do I find this? I know there was End's Resolve. That might be the only one. End's Resolve is an interesting supporter that accelerated energies to Dragon-type Pokemon. End's Resolve will also not be being reprinted, I'm assuming. So I expect some other End's supporter. I feel like there's going to be a supporter for each of the trainers introduced. That makes a lot of sense because you want to represent the trainer in some way, though I'm not super confident on that. Misty's Pokemon I believe was accompanied the infamous Misty's tier card or tiers cards. I'm not super familiar with these older cards though, but I would expect Pokemon to want to represent the trainers as actual trainers. And so we'll see that could be some form of energy acceleration for En's Zoroark EX here to make that deck better. But we have a lot of things to see about that. But we have some other interesting cards here as well. Lily's Clefairy EX is really interesting, and this is a card with the ability Fairy Zone. The weakness of each of your opponent's Dragon Pokemon in play is now Psychic, and it's really interesting because obviously Dragon Pokemon don't have a weakness in the standard format, and that makes them theoretically really good and hard to counter, but Dragon Pokemon used to, for a relatively short period of time, be weak to Fairy, and Fairy type's not a type, so now Fairy's been shifted to Psychic, so now you can have that theming back, and then we also have Full Moon Rondo, and it says it does 20 more for each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. I didn't realize this was the attack name. Maybe I did. I haven't talked about these cards in a really long time, but Full Moon Rondo, it's kind of like Lightning Rondo on Raikou V or Entei's. I don't remember. Well, Burning Rondo. There we go. That's the name. So similar naming there and similar attack. I mean, the same attack. So this is a pretty cool card for countering Dragon decks, which right now Dragon is like quite good. I don't know what the best type is. The best type, yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but Dragon's certainly a very solid type, and so this will be really good against those decks. There's also a basic. It's Clefairy, not Clefable. So yeah, this is a very solid card. For some reason, I thought it was Clefable. Its HP is a little bit low. It's not like horribly low, but certainly on the it's pretty low. It's not like Squawkabilly EX HP, but it's low. But ultimately, it is a pretty interesting card here, and one that it's kind of cool. We do have a Dragon type counter in Black Kyurem EX, but whatever. It's a cool card, and we'll presumably see more Lily's Pokemon. Not exactly sure the direction these will go in. It could be. I mean, I'm not very familiar with Pokemon outside of the TCG. I don't know much about just the general Pokemon stuff going on. But Lily has had a good few. It's had how many trainers? It's had Lily, which is a supporter that's also definitely not coming back because it says draw until you have 6 cards in hand, but if it's your first turn, draw until you have 8. But at the time, you could play supporters turn 1 going first, which made this card a lot better. And also it's really good with Tapu Lele GX, which is very similar to Lumineon V, but then that's going to rotate by the time this card comes out. So, or by the time the Lily's Pokemon come out. So ultimately, this supporter is also definitely not coming back. Then we had Lily's Full Force as a supporter card, which says draw 4 at the end of your turn if you have 3 or more in your hand. Shuffle cards from your hand into your deck until you have 2 in hand. This is like a new supporter, like Amaris or something. I don't really remember the supporter, but there's a supporter like this, so this is also probably not coming here. I guess there is Lily's Pokédoll. This is like weird. There's no Lily on this card, and I don't think that card's coming back. It could. I wouldn't despise it coming back. It's a card that when in play doesn't give up a prize. It's an item that you play like a Pokemon, and you can discard it, and it does stuff. But regardless, I think there's going to be a new Lily's supporter. I expect that for probably all the supporters. Marnie's Grimstyle is the next card, though, and I'll talk about Marnie. Marnie doesn't have any synergy with the cards. With this card, I don't remember exactly what it does, but Marnie has only had one card. Oh no, it's had two cards. Marnie's Pride. Marnie's Pride is in standard, could get reprinted, and this is attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So I guess that has synergy with Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX, which we'll talk about. But I don't know. It's an okay card. It's not that good. It's a card that doesn't really see play. What is this? In some of these videos, I click on lists and I get surprised. But regardless, Marnie's Pride is like a kind of interesting supporter, but not super interesting. The more interesting supporter is Marnie itself, which is a really cool one, which says each. Well, I think it's cool. Each player shuffles their hand, puts it on the bottom of their deck, which is something that we see with Iono, which I was just talking about. And if either player puts any cards in the bottom of their deck in this way, you draw 5 and your opponent draws 4. It's essentially an objectively more powerful Judge. Judge is a solid supporter in the game, probably like top 10. I don't know the top 10 supporters right now. It's not the very top, though. There were definitely better supporters than it, but Marnie was a top supporter when it was in the game, and kind of similar to Iono, getting you this explosive card draw, more explosive than Judge, less explosive than Iono early game. Iono's shuffle draw 6, and then Marnie's shuffle draw 5, and then Judge's shuffle draw 4. For you, for your opponent, it's different, but Marnie's essentially objectively better than Judge, and pretty solid. I was talking with, I believe, Uncommon Fossil about Marnie theoretically getting reprinted, and I think it was Uncommon Fossil, and he said that was maybe too strong, but I think it would be okay in the game, and we could see that, but who knows? What is this? Oh, that's not the set I was looking for. So this is definitely a card that we could see, but I don't think we'll see it. I think we're going to see another Marnie's card, but we might not. We don't have any confirmation of that. But Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX here has 320 HP. It's a stage 2, evolving from, of course, Marnie's Morgrim, and its ability Punk Up says when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 5 basic Darkness Energy cards and attach them to your Marnie's Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck, and Shadow Bullet does 180 for 2 Darkness and 30 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This card looks a lot like Charizard EX. It accelerates a bunch of energy, but we don't know what this will be too. I will talk about this in a little later on about Marnie's Morpeko, which I'm pretty sure we're essentially confirmed to get. But then that will be a basic and presumably darkness type. It could be lightning type. That would be kind of awkward. I'm pretty sure it's going to be darkness type to have synergy here, or be colorless energy on a or even Darkness Energy on a lightning Pokemon. Also, presumably, like, they could be Terras, theoretically, but I don't think we're going to see Terra or Stellar trainers Pokemon. I don't really know. I mean, I don't expect to see it, though. Maybe with a Gen 9 trainer. I don't know. Anyway, so this will be accelerating energy to other Pokemon. Hopefully there's one that's really energy hungry, or we can get good value out of this. This reminds me a lot of Charizard EX, accelerating, paying its own attack cost, and its attack is the same amount of active damage as Charizard EX early on. But I think this card is just like a worse Charizard EX. You don't really need 5 basic Darkness Energies. It's only to your Marnie's Pokemon, so we'll see. This is a bit of a ways out, and we don't know a lot of the cards, but it is a card that is kind of interesting, and so that's fine. I ultimately don't really like the design of it because it's so similar to Charizard EX, though, and so, like, kind of whatever feeling. I mean, you could kind of say that the other ones are kind of reusing certain aspects, and but I like the Liz Clefairy EX and the Enzoric, or the Ends Pokemon a bunch as well. And also, these cards these were in the gym era, apparently, so that was a very, very long time ago by now. And yeah. Anyways, then they apparently, this is the PokeBeach article I'm referencing, and apparently they also teased Arven's Mabostiff, Misty's Psyduck, and Ethan's Pikachu. I don't know who Ethan is, or no, Ethan's Pichu, but and then I saw this. They teased the return of Team Rocket, which is obviously in reference to this expansion called the Glory of Team Rocket, which is, I believe, a Japanese expansion, presumably coming later than the main expansion, I think. And yeah, so this is, it says, foreshadowing the return of Rocket's Mewtwo EX. So we'll have Rocket's Pokemon, which is a little different because obviously it's not just one trainer. We've seen Rocket's Pokemon in the past here, and there's some info about it. And they said Rocket's Pokemon are dark Pokemon, presumably Rocket's Pokemon. And yeah, is that a dark Pokemon as well? I don't remember, to be honest. Anyways, so we'll see those cards, and so we'll see Rocket's Mewtwo EX. That's kind of exciting. I guess I don't. We don't have much info on that, but that is something we are going to see. And Arvin's Mabostiff. So with Rockets, I'm trying to think of Rocket cards. There is what is that team? There's Rockets Admin, which is a good card, but that's like N. That's like N Ariana. We're not gonna get three N cards in like one set. That'd be horrible. I mean, not horrible, but just we don't need that. And then there's Team Rockets Handiwork. That's the only one I'm really familiar with here, I think. What's this one? Um, oh, and then this is like kind of like a Mars, but it's a little different. But Team Rocket's Handiwork is a mill supporter. I wouldn't necessarily expect this one coming back. And we'll see what the Mewtwo's like, though. Obviously, we've seen Mewtwo featured on some pretty solid cards in the past, so we'll see what we get there. Arven has a supporter in Standard. Misty does not have a supporter in Standard. We've seen a bunch, but like, what is Misty's Water Command? That is not one we'll be seeing. Well, okay, Misty's Water Command is kind of interesting because it interacts very specifically with certain Pokemon. So this is kind of like what a Misty's card or a Trainer's card could look like if it only interacts with that Trainer's Pokemon. But we saw Misty's favor for getting supporters. Misty's Determination gets like cards for the top of your deck, and okay, I haven't looked at these cards before. This is actually the same art on these two cards. Anyways, so we've seen those, and then honestly, I'm just like thinking about these, and I'm like, just thinking about Pocket because there's Misty and there's like Pikachu, and they're very good. But regardless, Misty's Psyduck and Ethan's Pichu, which I guess will probably be a baby Pokemon. Pichu is a Pokemon that I'm not very familiar with Pichu in the TC. Like I'm moderately familiar with it. It hasn't had cards in a long time, but presumably we'll be getting an Ethan's Pichu, and that card will be a baby Pokemon, which we have in Standard, and Pichu's only been a baby Pokemon, and baby Pokemon have changed throughout the course of Pokemon TCG history, but it will have a free attack, a free retreat cost, and will also have 30 HP, and will be a trainer's Pokemon, and probably won't. Well, I don't know who Ethan is, like, at all. I don't know who that is. And then you have the last thing, which is distributor listings revealed battle partners, which will be the first set, Japanese set of 2025, and it will feature notable trainers alongside their Pokemon, including Iono, N, and Lily. And obviously, we looked at N and Lily, and those Pokemon's cards, or those trainers' Pokemon cards. And then there's also Marnie, and then there's Iono. That's interesting. And Iono, I believe the Pokemon that is her like main partner or whatever is Belly Ball, and she has like I don't know. I don't know much about the Pokemon video games and stuff, but we'll see Iono. Iono obviously has a card in Standard, so hopefully we don't see a set with Iono and Team Rocket's admin or Rocket's admin in the same set or at all. Like they're all the same card, but we might see another Iono card. I'm pretty sure Iono just has one card. Yep, unless I was like forgetting something. So we'll probably see another Iono supporter, but I would not be shocked to see Iono getting reprinted. I don't believe it was. The most recent print is of the same regulation mark as the first print, which was last year. Then to pre-constructed decks, some people are theorizing this could relate to tag teams, but they won't. Pretty much, that's guaranteed. But they are relating to trainers Pokemon, which we have starter set EX, Steven's Beldum, and Metagross EX. So we have Steven's Metagross EX. Steven has had some supporters, and it's had one that searches. What is this one? I don't know. You have Steven, which searches for any. No, this is the supporter and the basic energy one, and that's whatever. It's a very whatever card. And then you have Steven's Resolve, search for 3 cards and put them into your hand. Your turn ends. I would not hate to see this card in the game. I mean, it's like a control card. It isn't exclusively control, though. It kind of plays like Cleffa. The same turn you could attack with Cleffa is the same turn you can Steven's Resolve, and even Rotom V as well, I guess. Rotom V is rotating, so that could be interesting as a replacement for that, and that's kind of cool. And then Marnie, which you saw here, but we got 6 trainers confirmed or pseudo confirmed. I guess these are pretty likely as well. I think these might have been in the video, but we have Iono and Lily, Marnie, Steven, Team Rocket, which isn't a trainer, but it's kind of a trainer. Then we got Arven, what's assumed to be Misty here, which would make sense, and then also Ethan. So that's interesting. We have a decent amount of info, and I haven't really heard it talked about, and I wanted to talk about it because I've been talking about rotation. But anyways, tell me down below in the comments what you think about Trainers Pokemon and what you're excited for and what you're a little nervous about, if you're nervous about anything with the mechanic. But I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, joining the channel, all that good stuff. And as I'm excited to see you in the next video.